your experience like owning a mobile home park? Like dealing with the tenants and what have you?
So we had that under management, but it was still pretty interesting. With all the different things that happened. The day that we went to look at the property to decide if we wanted to buy it and do our walkthroughs and inspections, there was a police raid. So like the house we were looking at, the door gets kicked in, police come in, and we're like, yeah, this is happening. So from that point on, you know, we had very low expectations.
Yeah.
But it's been worth it because even though it didn't cash flow fully, like everybody's not paying their bill or whatever, it's still cash flowed enough to make our payments for the last however long. You know, she said we bought it in February, so from then till now, it's paid for itself, which is, you don't get that luxury very often
Not with
in the
development.
development space. And so for it to pay for itself has been worth it. I mean,
Yeah.
and then to have it under with a management company too, not actually having to take every phone call.
Yeah.
It hadn't been that bad.
Seller finance, did you get that?
Seller finance with the owner, yep. Yep, I think we got 8%.
Yeah, something like that.
It wasn't in Hickory County, was it? No,
Close. No. Feels like,
no, it's literally right next door to the Dixon Municipal Airport.
yeah. West Dixon.
Yeah, other questions? Or we,
About how long does the feasibility study take and what's the cost on an average one if you're looking at sort of building up storage units?
It depends on who you hire. So there is like one group that does the majority of them. They can crank one out in a few days. They don't go to the site. They get online and get all the information. They're masters at it. They own 22 storage facilities themselves.
Now
So,
there is there is a desktop
right, that's the first.
feasibility study you can do, just like an initial quick. You might not want to do this,
Like
or
really?
I would go ahead and push forward, which is like what?
20, it's between $2,500 and $3,000.
And then
Yeah.
the full market study, when it's like, all right, we need something to take to the bank
Yeah,
and get this
that's
done,
$6,000 to $8,000.
but they'll apply the first, most of them will apply, but
All of
if you,
Yeah, that I've ever worked with.
you do the first initial with them to the other, obviously if it doesn't work in the initial, you're not gonna get money back.
all right, I think we have some questions from those online,
So we have Tommy, who's asking, what are you working on right now and what is in your pipeline?
Yeah.
So right now, we're finishing up the phase 2 of our first self-storage facility, the 300 units. We should be opening the doors in May. So we just got a couple weeks left on that, just buttoning up a few loose ends, need to pave the parking lot.
before you go any further on that, but so in May, and then were you saying, was it gonna take you 30 months to?
30 months is our projected lease up.
Yeah.
On
lease up?
that from
Okay.
May.
All right.
Yeah, so we'll come back in a couple years and see how that went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we expect it to go really well. It's a super nice facility, Class A facility. 2-story climate controlled. We, like you said, we got a nice white brick painted front
Yeah.
entrance.
Yeah.
With all the black glass and different things like that. And so at the same time, we just went through our third final hearing. With our final hearing in March for our next development, which is next to the airport, which is an 80,000 square foot facility. We're gonna do in 3 phases. First phase being about 200 units. A little under 30,000 square feet with some parking. That's what we're doing in the self-storage realm. We're also developing luxury houses. And things like that, but I won't get too much into the residential.
Oh, that was the only one. I have another one though. So what's your end goal? Do you guys have like a goal that you guys are trying to reach for with your business, or is it just kind of see like how far we can go?
Well, right now, I mean, sorry.
I mean, yeah, we have some like net worth, cash flow goals, things like that, but ultimately, like, we just love what we do. We don't have retirement plans. I mean, I want to cruise around the world for like 3 years, but I don't call that retirement, that's lifestyle, and just, we love what we do. I want to die doing this. I don't want to quit doing this ever. And so yeah, like there's certain benchmarks, I guess you could say, that we're working towards, but we just want to keep grinding and keep doing this and pass that legacy on to our kids who work in our business too.
Yeah, we love to create and we love to do things that are gonna continue to, bear fruit. And self-storage is one of those things. We do luxury houses and we might make sell a house and make a quick amount of money, quickly. But we always try to, take that money and then reinvest into self-storage, which is a longer play. And then in between have some medium type, cash flow situations, but our best play right now is self-storage for the long game because we've learned it, we can build it, we can do it in-house, we can manage it easily, we can do it from anywhere in the world. The risks are low, the rewards are pretty high. And so it just fits within our lifestyle and then our, the goals that we have from a cash flow perspective and from a net worth perspective. And then we just feel like when you have a niche, you just stick with that niche because, we could do,
Riches are in the niche.
we could do multifamily too,
Right.
just as well. I have no doubt. We can build it. We can run it. We can do whatever, but that's not what we did first.
Yeah.
So this is what we're doing.
So you'd mentioned earlier when we were chatting, so on your custom homes, you have 3 or 4 you're finishing up, and you got 3 or 4 you're starting, right?
Yeah.
So what part of Nashville area?
Well, right now
Are you
we're building out a 9-lot subdivision in Dixon or a 9-tract subdivision. It's all 5-acre tracts. We took a 42-acre lot of land and divided it up into
Yeah.
5-acre tracts. We're building estate style homes there. We've built 4 of the 9. We've got 5 to go. We're just broke ground on a couple of those. We're also flipping some nicer houses that we're able to subdivide some lots off of those and renovate and then build next door. We're doing that in Dixon. We've got a 12 build opportunity development that we're starting in Nashville on 8th and 9th Avenue North. And so we're getting prepared to do that development. It's more of a redevelopment as well. There's probably 7 building lots there and there's 6 houses that are again rented. So that's a nice development that's cash flowing from the beginning. Eventually we'll tear down the 6 houses and all of it will be. Well,
Yeah. So on
new
the,
houses.
so just back to mobile home parks for just a second. So are you gonna look at buying mobile home parks again that you can use for, for self-storage, or are you gonna go into that as
I think that
maybe
works
it
out,
was a,
But I would never look at them on purpose.
yeah, okay.
It just
That's
kind
what,
of-
that's what I was asking.
It just kind of
Yeah.
was there and I was like, wow, this looks like a really good deal. Let's investigate further. Yeah, good.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if the right deal came up, we would do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The numbers would have to make more than sense.
So what does your operation look like in terms of, do you have employees? Do you guys split up the tasks? I handle this, we handle this, we subcontract this, we have employees for that, or how does that, like the day-to-day operation, how does that look with the 2 of you in your company?
Like all of it.
Really kind of self-storage, it probably gets, you guys
There's
probably,
blended,
you probably delineate them somewhat, I imagine, the building from the self-storage there.
Yeah, storage. We have an on-site manager, we have a remote manager, and we have a manager of that manager, and then we have me. And I don't want to hear from any of this stuff right here, like, tell me about the important stuff. I want to look at the reports, and that's our layers there. Although I used to be the person that, mopped the units and
Right.
all that. And then we have only 1 employee, and that's just recent. And everybody else is subcontractors. Jeremy can tell you about the many, many people that we feed.
yeah, we work with a lot of people. I mean, by the time I get done with it and hand it to her, it's done from the construction department. We're basically, the way Jennifer and I are set up is she basically underwrites any deal that comes through, make sure it vets it, make sure it's okay. Once it's done and, financing is approved and things are allocated that need to be allocated, it comes over to me, and then our department do construction is we've got a personal assistant that helps us out. We've got a full-time bookkeeper that helps us out. We've got 4 project managers that help us out. Lots of subcontractors underneath them. I think the last time we counted, we had almost 100 different subcontractors throughout our company. And so we're able to stay very organized with that. We use Monday.com as a system. And for all of our communication, we do through Monday.com, which has been really good. We worked with a developer to take Monday.com and then set up database with all of our, key construction categories. And then we've implemented all of our subcontractors and project managers inside of there. Everybody's able to communicate through there and then take pictures and do whatever. If there's any constraints, we're able to handle it that way.
Because we tried if you're in construction or familiar with the construction management, like there's co-construct and build.com, and they're like software management for construction, and they're expensive, and we, they're built out for certain people, but we ended up just having to build our own system that fit what we do, because we do so much, and it's not just construction or just luxury homes or just storage or wholesaling or whatever. It's, whatever the opportunity is, if it's a deal, we don't want to say no to it. So we've got to, build out the right system for that deal, so that we're not working 24 hours a day, because we do have a family. I homeschool our kids, and we got other priorities that are way more important than, dealing with renting a storage unit.
They're your best two employees?
They are,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
they are, and they work really hard. They get paid the max that the IRS allows, and they invested in their self-directed IRA that can lend out and or buy properties, and so yeah, they are good.
But on the self-storage side, it's very hands-off. I mean, there's not a whole lot of going on during the day. It's all automated online, which is another reason why we like it so much. Because we can continue to work day in and day out on producing more revenue in order to invest more into the self-storage, because it is so capital intensive in the beginning, especially developing, or even if you're buying another self-storage facility.
So it sounds like you guys have been working together basically since you met.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I know Jan and I get the question all the time, how is it working with your spouse? And, you guys get along, do what, so what's your guys' take?
Ask our therapist. But for
I
real,
love that answer.
we have, coaches in all different areas, because it's hard not to walk in the living room and Jeremy gets up like 3 or 4 hours before me and wants to talk about this project, and I'm like, hello, I need coffee, I live here too, and so you really have to set boundaries, yes, and make sure you're taking care of the personal side and the professional side. And we really divide and conquer. People think because they told Jeremy something, because I'm married to him, will know about it when he gets home. No, like, we're not talking about, the whatever workplace drama that y'all had during the day, like that ended and he came home, and now we're having family time. So we have to
Which is what's super important, and what's been super helpful about the system we built with Monday.com is because when a thought comes up and you just put it into the system and walk away from it,
yes.
Even for us being married or communicating in there from a business perspective, and then we don't have to worry about it later, because I don't have to bring it up now because I'm going to forget. I'll just put it in the system, and when you have time to respond. And then also I'll say, like, knowing our roles and not trying to, I'm not going to manage the underwriting that she's doing, and she's not going to manage how I'm managing subcontractors or other contractors or whatever, because then, there's two right ways to do a lot of things, but somebody's got to be in control of it. And so I think that's been a huge, that's been a very helpful tool for us to just like own our jobs. And I think that's just in management in general, people should own their jobs, but they were not fussing and fighting. I'll own my mistakes too. I'll own my wins, I'll own my losses, and so will she, or we'll come together and say, all right, we're having an issue. Can you help me with this? But not feel like, we're over each other's shoulder.
I don't make mistakes.
So.
That's why I'm the underwriter.
Oh, that's hilarious. But yeah, that's so Jan is in that office, I'm in this office. Sometimes we don't even see each other during the day, even though we're right there.
Yeah.
And then it's on the way home, then I'm like, so how was your day, right? But that's the first time I hear about it.
Right.
And usually after the 30 minutes of getting home, then she's like, okay, Brian, office hours are over. So I don't know if that sounds like what you were saying, like, I need coffee.
If I have a thought like about this,
right?
look, that system is really good, because we'll be in the same room and I'll put it in Monday.com instead of bringing it up, because he'll deal with it when he deals with that. And the same thing for me, like, I don't even have notifications on my phone for anything like that, because I don't want to be interrupted with that 2 times a day. I'll sit down and address it just like my emails and that's it. Like, you can wait until I do that again. You know, there's no
Jennifer's
reason.
also homeschooling, so it's not like she can just
Right, yeah.
stop what she's doing any time of the day and deal
Right,
with the
yeah.
fires that we've got to put out on the construction side. She doesn't need to deal with that or have time for it. Or
Yeah.
even need to know about it because most of it can handle itself anyway.
You got an emergency, call 911.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a couple of questions here back here first, and I've got my few.
Do you have contingency set in place for succession plan for Rise?
For if we die,
Yes,
like a will or how to run our
Like who
business.
was
the
taking?
business side.
Yeah, we are working on that. We realized about a year ago that if we die, like both of us at the same time, it's gonna be crazy. Because nobody's gonna have a clue what's going on. So we started organizing all that and just delegating who's gonna handle finances, who's gonna handle the kids, and it is a big process. And then asking people, are you okay with doing this if something happens to us, or are we gonna liquidate?
And not only if we die, like we want an emergency plan in general.
Or
Just in
get
case
disabled or whatever.
shit hits the fan and, interest rates go to 30% and, we're up due for a refinance. What are we gonna do? Like, we want to think about all those different things and that's something that we're working on now. It's
Yeah.
just, and that's why I said, it's a great question, not just if we die, but if the economy turns, anything happens. And it's another reason why we like self-storage because the data tells us even in 2008, places like Detroit that have still not even come back. And they were thriving in self-storage at the time, and their numbers have continued to rise since then. If nothing else, self-storage has, but nothing, And so that's why we do like self-storage because of the risk mitigation in and of itself. It might not have as good a return as, say, multifamily from a square foot perspective or whatever, but
Less risk, less, like you say, toilets, tenant, whatever.
Yep.
Daniel, go ahead.
Can you guys talk a little bit about the development process of self-storage? Like, what does that look like from raw land until you're going vertical? And what is the build cost, stuff like that?
well, depending on what you do. If you drive up units, you might be somewhere between $35 and $50 a square foot. Just given a number, obviously, there's a lot of different variables with land, like how much cut and fill do you have to do, how much excavation, who's gonna do the work, et cetera. And so, but just from a building perspective, that's where you're gonna be, like in climate control, I can say that we're probably gonna land around $85 a foot on this building we're doing right now. And actually, I think we're coming under budget, so I'll let you know in May what that number is, but anyway. I'll throw that out
Better
there.
be.
She's over clapping. Hilarious.
Well, if we didn't, it's because the underwriting was wrong.
Yeah.
No, anyway, but yeah. So that's kind of building cost. What that looks like from the ground up is, day one excavation, then you've got gravel, then you've got concrete, then you've got metal buildings. Then you might have a little bit of electrical. We chose not to put electrical in our drive up units, so nobody's using or trying to live in there and they're not using electrical. We're mitigating the risk of fire. In those 220 something units, I don't know that we've had any kickback on that. Somebody might say it'd be nice if I had a plug or anything like that, but it definitely didn't hinder us.
We did, they'd be trying to live there, so.
Yeah, it didn't hinder us from renting the units out. We did the lease up in 11 months, like she mentioned. So not a whole lot. There is cameras, so there's some data cords that went through for the camera system, but there's some bollards outside, depending on if, like, we're in a no dust zone, so we had to pave our property. Some places you can just use gravel. Some places like us, you have a no dust zone, so we do have to pave. So there was some pavement, automatic gate, fence, some lighting on the buildings. It's all very minimal as far as the construction goes.
If you want a really simple play-by-play instruction on how to develop storage, Tracty, if you have something to write on, I'm gonna spell it because it doesn't spell like it sounds, but it's TRACHTE.com. And so Tracti is one of the biggest metal building suppliers for storage, and one of the more expensive, but they spend a lot of time going around the US and making videos online to educate people on how to develop self-storage.
Yep.
Of course, they want you to buy their buildings, but they're not pushy on sales. And I take their class every time they come to Nashville, even though we know how to do it, because I want to learn what's new, what's better, like they are experts in this. And so we did it the hard way, right? We learned the hard way how to do it. Then I took this class and I was like, oh my gosh, and it's free. I was like, oh my gosh, if I would have taken this first, this would have been so much simpler. So I tell people, and I really appreciate that you let us talk about other third-party companies, because a lot of times we speak for someone and they'll be like, well, you can't mention anybody but us. And you know, we believe in, you know, spreading no gatekeeping, right? Like we want you to succeed as to your best and highest potential. But that class is a really good one, and see if they have some online stuff, because I know they did during COVID, but that will give you a really simple play-by-play and even help you explain like what's the better way to do the unit mix layout for a climate controlled building on this size site, you know, stuff like that.
And that's TRACHTE.
Yeah, and it may be like tractibuildings.com, but if you Google Tracti, you know, self-storage, you'll get to the right place, and they have online courses and stuff.
And if you have problems.